Hi, my name is Dennis. Welcome to my fourth video, C# Fundamental Tutorials. In order for you to understand the clear picture of the fourth video that we're doing right now, I would advise you to go check out the first video and the second video, and as well as the third video before stepping into the fourth video. Alright. What we've done so far, understanding C# Basic. We've talked about variables, okay? We've talked about data types. We've talked about subroutines, as well as known as methods. And then we've talked about conditional statement. So now we're about to pop into iteration statements, which includes the do, for each, and while. Okay? Now, in order for you to, before you start writing that at all, you need to know what that is actually, the logic behind the iteration statement, otherwise known as loop. There may be a situation when you need to execute a block of code several numbers of times. In general, the statements are executed sequentially. The first statement in the function is executed first, followed by second, and so on. Now, a perfect example of that will look like that image you're seeing there, okay? Where you see the block, you see in between a condition comes in, where you have a condition comes in and checks if the condition is true, and then goes through the conditional block codes, and then repeats itself over and over again until the condition is false, and then it goes out completely out of the block. And a perfect example of that will look like that. Let me take that away. Will look like that. That is a perfect example of how a loop will look like. Okay, a loop is nothing other than having a variable in between, initialization, and then checking its condition, and then step through by adding 1 each time it goes through. Okay, and this we're going to see in code. I'll show you more of that. So let's go do some coding. So what we're about to do right now is we will start by writing the while loop first of all, and then jump into the do loop, and then for loop, and then finally for each loop. Okay, now let's write some while loop. Let me take that away, and to keep things simple, I have written some series of codes which I will copy and paste it there for you to keep things simple and fast in terms of writing codes. So I'll paste that there. I'll call it a C# iteration. Make that public. Clean out every unnecessary code that I don't need for now. Then I've made a subroutine, or call it a method, call it var, and get every necessary namespace that I need. Now that's it. That's all there is. So I have a number. Let me just actually call that integer. Okay, I've declared an integer. Okay, this you know already. It's writing on the console. Let me bring that down. Let's just talk about those ones. This is not really important. This is just writing to the console. Okay, what I did is quite simple. I just declared a variable and initialized it with 0, and then I checked while 0 is lesser than 10. Go into this block, write it out to the console, and then add 0 plus 1. That gives me 1, will be stored in the variable, and it goes out again. And check this time. For the second time, it's going to check again. 1 is lesser than 10. Write again in the console, add 1 plus 1, and then gives us 2, which will be stored in the variable, and then goes out again. So this repeats itself over and over again. Let's go check this out actually when we want to print it out. Let's check it out like printing it out. Here, let me say iteration. Okay, and it's equals to new iteration class. Okay, and then I will call the while loop. There you go. So when I run this, you will see that I will have 0 to 9 being displayed in our console project. There you go. While loop output, number at 0 position, at 1 position, down to 9 position. Okay? Brilliant. So, now I want to dig a little bit more further, like trying to explain this part, the part where it sums 1 to number. And I mean, this you can do in different forms. This is one simple way you can do it, where you add the number plus 1, meaning you add the variable plus 1. Whatever value that is being stored in the variable will be added with 1, and then overwrite the variable basic number, or maybe the previous number that was there before. So, but this you can do in different form. I have put some examples here. I can probably take this out, and if you see here, I have the number, I have a plus sign in the front, and then an equal sign, and then I place 1 in front of it. This does the same as the previous one we just threw out. It does the same thing in computer world, in the programming world, in C# world. It adds 1 to it, saying plus 1 to the value being stored in numbers. So I will run that now, and you see it in action. You see, it does do the same thing, actually, 0 to 9 position. Okay, and there's still another way you can do that. In terms of that, you can put a plus in front of it, 2 plus. So I'm going to take this code out, and you see it properly. You see what I did there? It has 2 plus, and with that 2 plus, it means that please add, each time you get here, please add 1 to the variable value that is stored inside there, in the value. I mean the value that is stored in the variable. Okay. When I run that, it's actually going to do the same thing. Okay, 0, 1 to 9. All right. Okay. So, in other words, the plus sign, when you have 2 plus sign, it increases number by 1. So, where at first 0 plus 1 is equal, so is equal to 1, and so on and so forth. Okay, pretty simple. All right, now we got that. I will explain more in details later. So let's go check what we have not done. We have not done the do loop, for loop, and for each loop. So we go do the do loop right now. To keep things simple, I have written some series of codes already for the do loop, and I'm going to take it and paste it in there. So this is the, I'll call that int, simple. Now, what the do loop does is quite different from the while loop. The while loop does check if a number is lesser than 10. So, and it increases itself within the block. That's what it does. So each time it comes in, initially it has 0. It checks 0 lesser than 10. Yes, it's true. Goes in, writes in the console, and increase it by 1, and it keeps on doing that until it finally get the condition in the specific form, as in seeing it to be false. Oh, yes, it's lesser, I'll go out. Okay, now the do loop, in other words, compared to the while loop, is a little bit different. What it does is, it says, do everything here while number is lesser than 10. In this case, while 0, number is formally initialized as 0, while number, which is 0, lesser than 10. Keep doing this, Keep doing it. Just continue being in this block. Keep running the block until this condition is false. When the condition happens to be false, then go out, and then it's going to jump out. So let's go try that actually in action. See what it gives us. I'll run that. There you go. So the do loop output, same things, just the same action the way it was, but in a different form. Now, the only difference here is that in the while loop, in the do loop, you have to say why. You give him a condition. These are conditions. You tell him, you give him a condition and say the condition here is if you are lesser, if the number is lesser than 10, then you're false. But for that reason, you are true. Just keep on writing that in my console and increase it by 1. Look at that. We still have that same kind of number plus 1 here. So I did that purposely for those that doesn't have the idea about writing codes to know what happens. It's basically when I say 1 plus 1. If I say 1 plus 1, then it's 2. That means here it's going to be 2. That's all it does. Nothing else. Okay. If I increase that now by the second time is already 2, and I said 1 plus 2, and then when it goes through and it's safe store and it becomes 3. Okay. Let me just get that back. Good. All right. That's exactly what it does. So, and that's what I did here. And that's the same thing you can do here as well. And same thing you can do with the natural way. I call it they call it basically shorthand in C#. It's a shorthand form. So you can use the shorthand form basically, and then you're done. So let's run that again and see that everything builds and works well. Fine. Still working. All right. Let me see what we've done so far. We've done the while loop, we've done the do loop, and now we're about to do the for loop and the for each loop. Let's go ahead and do the for loop. To keep things simple again, I've written some series of codes for the for loop, and I will just paste it there. All right, that's the for loop. Nice and easy, pretty simple, but a little bit different from the do loop and the while loop. What happens here is quite simple. I will break that down. Yes, I will break it down in a way that you might be able to understand. So I probably made a short. Yes, okay, look at that. What happens actually is this. This is a block. Okay, that's a block. Within this block, as long as this condition, this is a condition, that it's a condition. As long as the condition is true, it continues to run in between this block. Now, in the first place, what it does is it creates an instance of the variable, which is int number, and then it initialize the number with 0, which is that one, which you see here. It assigns 0 to it, and then once that is done, that's for the first time, it will jump into the block and then do something which I showed here, as in saying first time number is now 0, step through the block, jumps in here and go back to the beginning again, which is here. This time around, what it does first is increase the number by 1 with the plus sign, which I said before, which you've seen, and now the number will now be from 0 to 1. Okay, that's like 1 plus 0 is equals to 1. So now number is already 1, and then when that is done, it jumps into this part and check the condition. If 1 lesser than 10, it's true. Yes, it's lesser than 10, then it's true. Jumps into the block again. This time around, do something. For the second time, number is now what? Number is now 1, has been increased by 1 with that sign, and then continues until condition is lesser than 10. That means it jumps out again. It's going to step through. Go check again. Add to it. This time makes it 3. And now number is now 3, which I see here, I guess. Where is it? Yeah. Number is now, yeah, go to the third one. And number is now 2. Increase it by 2. Yeah, it's now 2. And then check if number is lesser than 10. Goes in again. So basically what it's going to be doing all through till it gets out is going to be working on these two parts. Okay? This part is done at the beginning once and for all, and it will never touch that part again. Okay? All it does is check, increase, checks condition, goes in again. Increase, checks condition, goes in between the blocks again. Until the condition is true. Until the condition is false, rather, sorry. When the condition is false, then it will fly out. Okay? More of this you will see when we start doing debugging. Okay? Debugging is when you step through codes. That is a different topic entirely. If you notice, I've not started debugging. Debugging is when you put a breakpoint in here and you can step through lines of codes. Okay? You can step through and see the things live. But that I don't want to do now because I don't want to complicate matters for the beginners, because when you rush things, they get confused. Okay, I know that because when I was going into programming deeply, I had a very bad teacher. Okay, it takes it from the front, then goes to the back, jump in the middle, and it keeps on telling things in between. I get confused. Okay, so please don't get confused. Just take it step for step. So let's do one thing at a time. So the other ones will come later. All right. Okay. Now that is the for loop, and let's go see how that looks in codes. How that looks when we run it. I'm going to take the breakpoint out. The breakpoint will be a different issue entirely, which I will explain to you. Now let's run this. There you go. The for loop did the same, exact the same thing as the while loop and the do loop. Okay? No difference. So, in other words, in the for loop, you can as well say, I want to add number with 1 when I say number is equals to number plus 1. Sorry. It's pretty the same thing, like changing it, making it this way, in this form. Take that form and put it there. It will do the same thing. Look at it. Exactly the same thing, 0 to 1. Okay? And I can as well say, okay, you know what? Let me do it the other way with the plus and minus and the equal sign in front of it. Like I said, I just put a plus here. Take that out. It will definitely do the same thing. I run that. Pretty simple. Just as I said. Okay? Alright, it increases in every form. You can do it that way or the other one, but I prefer using the shorthand. Alright. Now, what happens if we count backwards? You know? To keep this simple, I have made some codes, or written some codes rather. I'll copy and paste it here. There you go. So now this time around we're counting backwards. We're not counting forwards, but we're counting backwards. I said what I did here is quite simple. I went in and said, okay, you local variable, you are now assigned with 10. And as long, then I check condition. This is a condition. Let me put that there so it looks a little bit fine tuning that you know is a group of condition. You know what I mean? So what I did is quite simple. You can observe from my first and second video, probably the third video, I was a little bit nervous while doing this video, but as time goes, I get more comfortable with it. I am like a boss. Anyway, just joking. But right now, what I did now is quite simple. I said the condition, as long as the condition is greater than 0, okay, then it's true. It will always continue to go in this block because it's 10. So each time it goes, it take out a number. Now look, I told you something about the sign with the plus sign, which I showed you there. That is the method in terms of increasing it. So, but another way to do it when you're decreasing it is when you use the minus sign. I'm going to use the minus, when you use the minus sign. 2 minus, and then each time it comes on that block, it minus from the number. Okay? It minus from the number. In this case, we're saying until it gets to 0, if a number is still greater than 0, if it minus it and said, okay, in the first place is going to be 10. It comes in and write it. And it does this one time, and then jump out, and minus from 10, 10 minus 1, and then it becomes 9, and it goes back to this block in the middle, and check, 9 is greater than 0, and says, yes, it's true, and then goes into the block again, and write in the console, and then goes on and on and on until it's done. So let's actually go try this out. Oof. Really talking. So let that run. Look at that. Backwards. We are writing backwards. Now you see number at position 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really simple. See that? So I'll break this down again for you with the minus sign. You can as well say that same form I said before when you say is equals to 1. But you know, previously I did that like putting the plus sign here. But this time around, you know, I'm having problems because I'm using the English keyboard right now. Over the years, I've been working for German companies, and I've been using the German companies, German keyboard. So I've lost total control of the English keyboard. But I'm trying to get myself back into it. Okay. Now when you put the minus here, so when you put the minus in here, like I explained before, when you have the plus sign, it increases. But in this case, it's a minus sign. That means it minus 1 from number. So I'm going to run that. It's going to do the same thing. There you go. 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, down to 1. Okay. Now break that down. Stop it again. I will do this in a different form when I say, like in a normal mathematical form, like before, like number is minus 1. Okay. So when I put number minus 1, it's going to do the same thing. There you go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright? Pretty simple. Backwards. I just counted backwards. Okay? So there might be a situation when you need it. You might, I've never found any situation where I'm counting backwards. But anyway. Depends on you. I've not done anything counting backwards, but it's there. It's just to help you, okay? Just making you to get the logic, understand the logic about C# generally. Not only C#, but probably OOP, okay? Okay, now I have one special one left, and it's called the for each loop, which we've not talked about. This happens to be the for each loop. Yes. Now, to keep things simple, I equally have a code for that as well. I will copy. Yes, I'm copying it. Yes. Now that's the for each loop. The for each loop is something different. Okay. We tend to use for each loop when we have a collection. Okay, a collection is another topic entirely, which you will see later. I will explain in details about the collection. Okay, but for now, keep it simple. It's all about what? The loop. Okay, so I don't want to talk much about the collection. I'll break it down a little bit so we don't complicate matters. So when we get to collection or collections, then we can talk more about collection. So, but the for each loop basically is, we tend to use it. I mean, I personally use the for each loop for collections only. Okay, some people still do use the for loop for collections. You can use that as well, but you have to find the index of each each block in your collection. This is a block in a collection. This is a block in a collection. The way I am highlighting them right now, so you see quite well what a block is. So, but I never use the for. I've worked in so many companies. I see when I come into their codes, they're using almost everything about the loop. It's just like they're using that one. They're using the for loop. Okay, not the backwards one. I'm just trying to explain, but they're using the normal for loop. So, and then getting the index from their collections. But it's a thing of the choice. It's your choice. A thing of the choice. You can do it with the for loop, or you can do it with the for each. But I tend to use for each. Quite simple. I just go in there, and it's a collection of names, a string where I have a name 1, name 2, and name 3 in there as a block, and it goes through the collection on its own and defines the type here and said what type is stored in there. It's a string, and that is the type I define. I said use string, define name in string. Please write it out in my console. So let's go try that actually and see how it looks like. So it's going to be like that for each. All right. So it's going to print out the names in that block. There you go. I have 3 names in there. So it said for loop backward. That's wrong. This is actually wrong. All right. I'll change that later. Here you see we have name, Dennis Jurora, David Joe, and Martha Ben. Okay. Let's go back in there. This is wrong. For each. Yeah, let's go for each. Yeah, not backwards, but it's the normal one. For each. Yeah, pretty simple. Okay. All right. Now, that solves the issue of the iteration statement. I will end this video here, and then hope to see you in my next video. Like I said, if you have questions, just drop me a message. My email, it's equally in the first page when we started the project in my PPT. Okay? All right. See you in my next video. God bless you.